Hey Vaughn.
Hey Kim, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
So, welcome everybody to But First Football. It is our first full week without football, and I don't know about you, buddy, but it's been a little tough for me. I'm
Yeah.
having some withdrawals. Thus, I'm wearing my football earrings that my niece gave me for
Oh,
Christmas.
okay. Got you. Sweet. Nice.
How about you?
No, yeah, it's weird. It's, always those first couple weeks right after the season. Since I've been retired, it's a little bit weird not seeing it, hearing what's going on during the year. But I'll tell you, the NFL has done a great job of making a year-round game. There's things all across the off season to pique our interest, get us talking, and so yeah, I'm sure there'll be plenty of news to keep us busy.
Oh yeah, there's been a lot. Before we get into the fundamentals, just one thing that I did see that I thought was super interesting, and I'm gonna check it out tomorrow a little bit more. The HBCU combine,
Hmm.
and there's a game tomorrow, like basically a all star game Saturday, HBCU players, and all the scouts are there.
Right.
So I think that's pretty cool, and I didn't realize that that was happening. So I don't know if they've done that before, but great opportunity for these guys from these smaller schools to be seen.
Yeah, I think they have done it before, but the NFL again is good, and they feel like if you have the talent, they'll find you. Whether it's putting a game like this together, where the HBCUs have their own kind of post college All Star game where talent can showcase itself. It doesn't really matter if you can play. It doesn't matter what level you played at, whether it's one double A or even NAIA, they'll come find you and they'll give you a try, give you a good
Yep,
look.
I
Yeah,
love it. I think it's
yeah, that's
cool.
awesome.
So anyway, our fundamentals this week, we are going to be talking about body work,
Yeah,
of which I'm sure there is much happening right now for players either who play deep into the postseason and who are recovering, and
yeah,
players who are trying to get ready to play
yes,
next season.
yeah.
So, what would you like to share with us about body work?
So just body work being part of that this time of year where the season's over, you've rested maybe a couple few weeks, maybe even up to a month in some cases. Your body's just so beat up, and also you need that mental break. There's a lot required of you in terms of what you do at work, and then when you get home, you probably have family obligations. So you just want to decompress, let your body heal, let your mind calm down, and once you start ramping back up into, you have a 2 to 3 month window before you start organize team activities, meaning just workouts, no practices, just workouts, and it's all about building your body up. But you typically want to start that process on your own when you're on your own, whether you're working out with other guys or not. You want to start before the team organized workouts, just because you don't want to let your body go for that long. 2 3 months, you can do a lot of damage in terms of not the physical damage from the season, but in terms of maybe you're not eating as clean as you might need to. You don't want to put on weight and have to work that off. That's admittedly, between you and I was never great at that part of it. I was excellent to organize activities, but when I had that time to myself, I wasn't great at getting myself up, going, and not necessarily go. It doesn't necessarily have to be going to the gym. Just some kind of resistance training. You can do body weight work. There's a lot of different things
Right.
guys
Oh,
will do
sure.
and incorporate.
Yeah.
And that's the cool part I think about now. And I know some of the guys share what they do in the off season, but right now there's because for the most part, most NFL workout programs are similar in some respects. There might be differences in terms of the exact process they use, but ultimately the goal is the same. But now when guys are on their own, so many guys use so many different things. But let me get to what I came to talk about today, which is body work, recovering from the damage that you do. And so I just thought it'd be fun to share some of the things that guys use. And so obviously massage is something guys do during the season. But one thing they might not do necessarily during the season quite as much is something like active release techniques where we have knots in our muscles and scar tissue, and actively going in there and getting that scar tissue, those knots broken up And so this isn't like your gentle spa massage.
Sounds intense.
This is big guys using elbows and going in, breaking up that scar tissue. And I can remember a few that I've had where literally just short of crying, but you feel so much better when it's done, getting all that stuff broken up, and it kind of releases and you can stretch again. And so that's a huge one that I know a lot of guys like to use. One of the therapies that, obviously you'll have probably an interesting take on this is kind of newer, wasn't necessarily around so much when I was in things, but is the red light therapy, right?
Oh my God. I
Yeah.
just did it today.
Oh, did you really?
Yes, red light and salt therapy. I love it so much.
Now, you can maybe give us, because I have no experience with it. Maybe you can give us kind of what it feels like.
Well, first of all, so if I didn't share this before, I did take a part-time job at my Pilates studio in the recovery room. So in the recovery room, we have the red light therapy booth, and you can do red light only, or you can do salt only, or you can do a combo of the two.
Right.
So it's literally like a closet, a good sized closet that you go into, and on each side of the walls are the red light panels, and then the salt comes from a dispenser on the wall. And what it does is, the obvious is it's very good for your skin. It really very, very anti-aging, smooths out lines and wrinkles. I don't know if you can tell. Evens out skin color, skin tone, all that cosmetic stuff. But what it also does is it reduces inflammation. So I have a little bit of a tweaky shoulder, and I did do some heavy weights yesterday, and I was like, ooh. So made sure to kind of work my shoulder out while I was in there. It feels so much better. So definitely reduces inflammation. It also, the salt part of it is great for your lung capacity. It really helps with that. And if you have sinuses, it provides a lot of sinus relief. So the salt is a great addition to red light. And I don't think a lot of people who go into a red light bed or something like that, they're not getting the salt. So okay. I find the combo to be really fantastic, but primarily the inflammation relief. And then honestly, you sleep better. It's relaxing. And it's 20 minutes basically to sit in there with both. It's not something that people have to commit a huge amount of time to, and it can make a huge difference in recovery.
Okay. Well, yeah, it sounds like a lot of the other modalities that I'll kind of hit on, where, like you said, reducing that inflammation. You've got things that have been, whether, again, like I think I told you, where it's almost impossible to get everything treated. So sometimes you're just doing treatment on yourself, which maybe is just a cold bath, right? I'm just going to do some cold therapy on it and then tape up and get ready to go. Whereas now you have the time to go through, really work on that, get the inflammation out of the joints, out of the soft tissue. And it sounds like red light therapy is something that a lot of guys are starting to become aware of and starting to use.
Well, you're talking about the cold plunge. I think all you players probably do a lot colder plunge than I think I could handle. But we have that as well. But we also have the contrast therapy, which is supposed to be one of the best things you can do, which is the sauna and the cold, heat, cold. And I have yet to brave that yet. But I think for a serious athlete, that's, from what I'm understanding, one of the best things you can do.
Yeah, I've definitely done that as part of rehabilitation for a certain body part. Hot bath, cold bath, and you go back and forth, and the contrast is supposed. Again, the biggest thing is ultimately about getting blood flow to the body part that you need to be healed, and blood flow is healing, is health. But something that a lot of guys use that I never was into, chiropractic care. I just never, and not that every chiropractor has violent movements, but I just it wasn't for me. I'll just put it that way. That's the nicest way for me to say it.
Yeah.
But certain guys absolutely believe in it. Believe in getting their back aligned, certain body parts in alignment, and while it didn't work for me, a lot of my teammates absolutely believed in it. And I again, now is that time when a lot of guys will incorporate that into their off-season routine. And I don't know what experience you have with it, but I've done one or two sessions, but just ultimately never kind of gravitated back towards it.
I've actually never tried it.
Okay.
I've never tried it.
Yeah,
What about acupuncture? Do you guys do acupuncture?
absolutely. That's on the list too. So I personally have, I guess I'll say enough experience with acupuncture, and I'm a big fan of it. It's not quite what people think. You think about, oh, someone's sticking needles
Yeah.
in in me, but when it's just not very far, maybe I'll say a quarter inch into the skin. And this is kind of the part that I don't necessarily buy into, I guess, the meridian lines of the body. And again, I don't have enough knowledge. My knowledge base isn't formed enough to necessarily dispute any of it. My acupuncture therapists have all mentioned this and told me, and that's kind of how they decide where. Because if you have an ankle injury, they're not necessarily going to put the needles in at your ankle. They might put the needles in several inches or even a foot up your leg to treat your ankle, right? And so,
Yeah.
and a lot of it has to do with the meridian lines. That aside, I'm a big fan of acupuncture.
So is it something you notice the relief like right away? Is it pretty immediate?
It just depends, but in my case, I wouldn't say right in that moment, but over the course of the consistently showing up, in addition to the other things I was doing, I believe it absolutely helped my situation. My stuff was typically always straightforward, kind of like lower leg stuff, at least for the
Mhm.
acupuncture piece. And so for me, I'm a big fan. I think it works. I know a lot of guys use that in off season. Um, yeah, and I think people, and it doesn't hurt as much as you think either. I mean, it's
Right.
minimal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It's just
It's a
freaky.
it's a
It's just
little
freaky
pinch.
to look at.
Yeah, yeah. Some people might not want to watch, but it's a little pinch. It doesn't hurt that bad, but I think it does again helping get the blood flow to the area,
Yeah.
whether it's local or kind of bypasses the local and goes to another area and ultimately ends up. And I guess I get it. I guess I even get it like going up the leg because then the blood flow again starts there and works its way down before it goes back up, right? So maybe that's part of it.
Yeah.
I don't need to know every aspect of how it works as long as it does work. That was kind of my thing
That's
on
the
it.
bottom line.
Yeah. Another thing is cupping therapy. Again, getting blood flow to that area, using suction cups, and you use, and you don't necessarily. I know when they were very popular initially coming on board, would use kind of a flame to make the suction, but now they just have, you automatic little buttons. You push the button and it just causes the suction with the skin, and it gets a lot of blood flow to a very concentrated area.
I
Um,
wasn't really familiar with cupping until I think it was Michael Phelps and like
mhm.
maybe his last Olympics. So was cupping really a thing when you were playing, or did that kind of come around later, or we just
No,
became
no,
aware of it?
I'm not going to say it was super popular. I didn't see a ton of guys doing it, but it was definitely something that was used by some of my teammates. And I know it's very popular now. And
Yeah.
you'll be at the gym, and so if you see someone at the gym with a bunch of dark red spots on
Yeah.
their back, then don't worry, they're not contagious. They just got a couple session, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, another one that I had that I really enjoy is compression therapy. So basically, imagine zipping a boot, air compressed boot up to your thigh, covers your feet to your thighs, and then it's compress. They blow it up with air, and it compresses your legs to kind of get out that swelling, get some blood flow
Mm-hmm.
to the area, and it just helps again with the swelling, the inflammation that guys deal with, and that's just something that you do. All these therapies, none of these therapies probably work if you just go once or twice. It's a
Right.
series
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
it's a series
Yeah.
of visits and a combination of many of these things, and you get the overall effects, and it's just you know. It's just like your workouts. People who are familiar with working out, you have to be consistent. You have to show up every time, and over time, you really see the benefits of these type of situations. And again, like I said, it's all about getting blood flow to that area. And in this case,
Yeah.
um, and you can combine it with cold. You can combine it with there's machines that have different wraps for the body parts, but they feed it with cold water, and then they'll wrap the compression over the top of it. Again, lots of, and that's like I said, that's one of the things that I really enjoy is the different modalities that guys will use, the different workouts that they use, and then just the programs, how they all put them together, and with the ultimate goal being the same. But guys have their,
Right.
hey, this is what I like. I don't care for that one, but this path will get me there as well, right?
Yeah, and can you imagine like what would have Mike Ditka, like he'd be like
Yeah,
recovery schmovery,
right,
but
right.
it certainly has lengthened the careers of so
Sure.
many athletes, not just football players. And when you realize what, and just as an average person who, as you know, I am a little bit obsessive with my workouts. So I am working out every single day. That recovery piece it really has made me feel so much better just doing it, once or twice a week, just a little something. And here, we have that technology now, and it's so good. It's so good for people.
I think part of it is that at the college level, in terms of, I'm talking about NFL guys coming in, I think they're doing such a great job at the college level because these guys are coming in so far ahead of the game from when
Yeah.
myself and my other rookies came in terms of knowing about taking great care of your body, knowing how to take great care of your body. And I don't think it's just necessarily, I remember how I was at 22, 23. I don't necessarily know that it would have occurred to me because you're young and you recover so easily and you think you got the
Yeah.
world in
Yeah.
the palm of your hand, so that these guys come in so prepared, ready to take on these responsibilities and take care of their bodies in such a great way. I think speaks to the college level that they've gotten exposed to it, and that the colleges have impressed upon them how important this aspect of it is. One of the
I
things.
read there was a little article. Arch Manning was talking about his diet
Mhm.
and how he used to, when he first started school, he was eating at a Cane's. I don't know what that is, but burgers and milk and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
now he that is not how he's taking care of his body
yeah.
anymore. And he's so between diet and the work and then the recovery. Yeah, you're right, because they know you can't go into the NFL now and just like, Marshawn Lynch it and eat a bunch of Skittles and think you're gonna, make it.
Marsh,
That's rare.
Marshawn is the outlier. He was not right.
Yes.
He's not the normal guy, right? So he's
Right.
got great genetics and was able to get away with it. You
Hmm.
can't do that, right? Um,
Correct.
One of the things that I know a lot of people use, and this isn't necessarily just an NFL thing, but IV therapies, where there's a lot of little companies, little local companies that have different IV therapies that you can get a different mix of vitamins, minerals,
Hmm.
whatever kind of anti-inflammatory things you want to put into. And I know a lot of guys, friends of mine, I'll say, use this after a long night out. Right? They'll go go get an IV therapy, and they swear by it. But a lot of guys will incorporate this as well into their off-season
Hmm.
workout program. And I trust me, I don't see anything wrong with getting some B12 shot into a bag. Good, great for hydration. I there was
Right.
a 2 or 3 year period where I would get an IV bag before every game, and I did. I don't know if it was the placebo effect or not, but I felt better after having that. Was just straight, saline.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so, uh, again, just I like I said, it's becoming more and more popular and not just
you know
necessarily
what?
sports.
That's interesting what you just said about the saline.
Mm-hmm.
The saline in the bags, and
Yeah.
then the salt therapy coming out in this really fine, super fine mist.
Yeah.
You're breathing it in, it's going into your sinuses and your lungs. So salt has definitely been on the radar for a
Sure.
long
Oh, yeah.
time in a lot of different ways, hasn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Interesting. Vaughn, what about stretching? I know I have a friend named Aaron he's a stretcher. He's a
Mm-hmm.
professional stretcher. He has quite a good business. I'm sure that's not what, sorry, Aaron. I'm sure that's not what he's called, but it's stretching, the flexibility. I mean, I'm sure that it is also an important part of recovery. Do you know a lot of guys who do stuff like that?
Sure. And there's a lot. If you could go online and you can find programs that specifically stretching within making you just a more uh, mobile, being able to move better. Because what happens with, especially with NFL athletes, is at least at my position, I can speak for my position, is you get tighter, right? Because the again, the damage to your body, unless you work at keeping those muscles long and stretched and able to bend. If and again, every practice, almost anything you do starts out with a stretch, but it's that's never going to be enough. Like there's never going to be
Right.
enough time unless you kind of take it on yourself. And the thing that fights against that is that everything hurts, and it's just like, oh, I really don't feel like stretching tonight, right? But the guys who do are better for it. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, stretching, foam rolling, which I actually seen some stuff recently that maybe some people don't necessarily believe foam rolling does much, but I don't know. I believe in it. I think it helps, kind of, especially if you're not able to maybe in the moment go see an active release therapist. Well, you can kind
Right.
of do it on your own with a foam roller or a tennis ball, put it on that knot, kind of roll your hip over it or wherever it is, your back, wherever that knot or that
Yep.
bundle of
I
muscles
like it.
is.
Yeah.
But yeah, stretching and foam rolling, absolutely. And that's kind of, that's even just starting the list. It was a long list, but I just thought it'd be interesting to kind of say, hey, well, what are guys doing right now? The guys who've been off for 6 weeks, right? Didn't make the playoffs and have been out there. Hopefully they're in the middle of their kind of, hey, I'm ramping back up, building my body up,
Yeah.
So that's what they're up to, I imagine, right now.
Yeah, well, I love it. So, for those of you, if you're coming to Tampa or if you're in Tampa and you want to experience some of this recovery, give me a shout out. Come see me at the recovery room. Where, we won't be pounding on you and like making people cry with their nuts, but we'll put you in that booth and you'll feel real good.
Yeah.
Well, interesting. And I see, there we have this place, the House of Athlete. It's where Elizabeth did her internship, and there's already guys that are back in there,
Yeah.
working real hard. Jameis Winston, I know, did some work there when Elizabeth was an intern. So it's a lot of guys go there. Yo Murphy is the guy that runs that place.
Okay.
He's
You know
he's
what?
pretty hardcore, I think.
That made me think about, I just wanted to say just very quickly, because sometimes people wonder why things weren't like they were back in the day where the Steelers hated the Cincinnati Bengals. And, after the game, maybe there was a grudging handshake, but you didn't see it really. Well, the reason why a lot of these guys get to know each other beyond the camps when they're young and coming up, but is because places like that, places like
Yes.
Exos, where guys work out together in the off season and get to know each other beyond their relationship on the field, is a lot of what drives some of what you see after the games. And I know a lot of the old school guys, a lot of the old school guys question it, but that's really the reason. It's hard to work out and sweat next to a guy and just not like him for just because he plays a different color jersey. And
well, not to mention the way things are now, you might be his teammate sooner than later.
That's true too. That's true too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so we can move into the frenzy. We're
Yes.
gonna not talk about our faves, frustrations, and flops right now because there's no games going on. So, for those of you who have been listening to us for a while, we always focus on our various F words, and I got one for you. I saw a wonderful example of friendship.
Mm-hmm.
Saquon Barkley, I don't know if you saw this footage, but during the victory parade, he saw, I think it was their equipment guy, someone who worked for the team, not in a major capacity, saw him, the equipment guy, saw him standing behind a barrier, watching the parade, cheering everyone. He went over and picked him up, lifted him over the barrier, and brought him into the parade with the guys.
I did
So
not
I
see
just
that.
thought,
Oh,
oh
that's
my
awesome.
gosh, how nice is that? What a good friend, and
Yeah.
how nice that he did that. You know, that guy will tell his grandchildren, oh, I remember when Saquon Barkley picked me up. Sorry for the bad impression of a grandpa, but it was really, really cute. It was really, really cute. So that was one cool thing that I saw this week.
Yo, that is very cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, he seems like, obviously you don't really know these guys just watching from afar on television, what you see on television, but Saquon does seem like a really good guy, really good teammate.
I think so.
I'm
Yeah.
not surprised to hear
Yeah.
you say that it was him that did that.
Yeah. It was cute. Then another thing, so I know I told you last week I was going to go back and study all the pundits who picked the Jets and Aaron Rodgers. Which really, here's an F word for you, fruitless. That was a fruitless exercise. However, I will say that a pundit that I truly respect and like, Peter Schrager,
Mm-hmm.
was one of the ones. He picked Aaron Rodgers to win MVP. I'm like,
Oh,
oh,
wow.
Pedro. That was a little shocking. There were a lot more. And then I went back and I was looking at how many of these guys picked the Jets to like win the AFC East, stuff like that. Oh my goodness. Wow.
I think I said it several weeks ago. I think Tom Brady skewed the perception so badly because of the way he ended his career. And we thought, oh, everyone, if they take care of their body, everyone, if they adhere to such a regimented routine, can end it the way he did. And it's just not true. Even though I think Aaron Rodgers probably is better than a lot of guys at his age. But I think you see with Aaron, the Russell Wilsons, the Grim Reaper just is undefeated. And Tom Brady fought him off as best as anyone could.
Yeah.
And because I think in people's minds as well, athlete to athlete, Brady's not as good of an athlete as Aaron Rodgers, so he'll be able to finish perhaps even, and it's just Tom was one of one, and so I think it's gonna pull back the whole idea that these guys can play well into their 40s.
Right.
It's a
Yeah.
young man's game, and I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is coming back or not, but I think the returns have started to diminish to the point that, look, like you can't count on him being Aaron Rodgers from 6, 7 years ago.
Well, I think
Or
it'll be
any of
very
them.
interesting to see what happens in free agency, F word, because a lot of the guys who are going to be free agents are these aging quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers, Sam Darnold, Russell Wilson. I think I just saw that they signed Dalton, what's his name, Andy Dalton, to back onto the Carolina. But there's so many free agent older quarterbacks, and because the draft class
Right.
isn't great, these guys they're gonna wind up somewhere. But yeah, to your point, they're not going to be the savior that I think some of these teams are looking for.
Well, in those instances,
It's kind of sad.
I think perhaps they bring other value if you're not counting on them to be your everyday starter. I think a spot starter
Right.
who's a good guy in the locker room and perhaps our young guy for the future can learn under, not necessarily under, but because I never think it's the veteran's job to teach the guy to take his job, but who someone can watch and say, hey, he goes about his business in a good way. Yeah, then I think that's
Yeah.
still a viable path. But the everyday starters, I think, again, it's just going to be the rare athlete who can do it and end it the way Tom Brady did.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Have you seen any coaching moves that really struck your eye? I know we've hit on a few of them, and I know we want to talk more about that another day, but anything this week that caught your attention?
Well, just the Jaguars job, right? I think it says something. Look, the Jaguars have been an organization that, despite a few years of success early on, the last several, call it 10 to 15 years, they haven't been one of the elite programs in the NFL. And I think we're kind of
And that will continue.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think we're
I'm hexing them.
I think we're kind of finding out why, right? Like, and of course we all know
Mm-hmm.
your issues with Liam Cohen taking the job. But my issue beyond that is they hired the coach, but they're still looking for the GM. The GM in most NFL hierarchies is above the coach, and usually, if I doubt he ever unilaterally makes the decision, but he's heavily involved in the decision to hire the coach. Well, Jacksonville's still interviewing people for their for their GM job, and so it seems like they've kind of put the
It's
cart
backward
behind the horse. The GM, the GM usually wants to be the guy who's picking the groceries, to use an old Bill Parcells ism. And so, not that puts them out on a contentious road, but the GM always is going to want to have his guy in there. So they've set it up where Liam Cohen is never going to be his guy. It's just the guy who was there when he got here. And so and look, people have to work together who don't necessarily, and I'm not saying not like each other, but I'm saying who perhaps, he's not exactly the pick I would have made. But at the same time, this is the way it's worked a long time in the NFL, and it kind of, you know what it does? It kind of neuters the GM as he's coming in. So we'll see who picks up. So that was the thing that, and I know offline I kind of checked, was I was like, let me make sure this is right. Everything I have is saying they have. It was like, no, they still haven't picked a GM. So yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
Yeah, really weird. Oh, I also know one thing that last week we were talking about your meals, and I got confused between a torta and a sopa.
Oh.
So torta is the bread like you were describing, and a sopa is like the thick corn tortilla that I was describing. I just need to clarify that because I felt really stupid afterwards. So
we'll forgive you.
All right. Well, anything else? I think we're at time or about there.
Yeah, I think we should.
Anything else you spotted this week?
No, I had a bunch of stuff about the rest of the coaching stuff, but I think we should just save it for another time. And because we have kind of gone long. So yeah,
we have a lot of coaching stuff to talk about. I think there's some really interesting things going on out there. And and by the way, did you see the Chargers are going to be playing the first game in Brazil?
Yeah, I did. I sure did.
Yeah. We'll see how that goes. All right. Well, we will come back next week and we will talk more football. We're getting close to the combine. Actually, it is next week.
Yeah.
It's next week. Yep. It starts next week. Yep. Oh my gosh. Crazy stuff. So that's exciting. Tonight, however, I will be watching the final of the Four Nations hockey because that has apparently been fantastic. And we had 4 Lightning players, 5, and the coach. Our coach, John Cooper, is coaching for Canada. Oh, okay. So we have 3 guys playing for Canada and 1 guy playing for the U.S. So I'm kind of torn. I don't know who I'm going to root for.
I get why they're not there, but I'm like, how can you have an anything nations hockey thing without Russia, right?
I know. Yes.
So
agreed. It is. Yeah. Agreed.
I get it.
Because our goalie is the best, and he is Russian,
Yeah.
and he's not there.
Yes. Okay.
Interesting. All right. Well, Vaughn, have a great rest of the week, and we will be back next week on But First Football. So everybody, please give us a like and a follow and a subscribe, and it was good to see you.
Okay. Sounds good.
We got to survive this non-football
I know.
stuff, and yeah.
We'll make it through.
All right, everybody.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.